So we've gone through the southern part of Africa to the north. Before we go to the west, let me bring an intermediary to raise some of the issues and some of the things you're finding there before going to the west. So David, you've had significant exposure through your clients to the continent and to the continent's markets. What are your views on where the opportunities are currently across Africa? And what can we as stock exchange leaders and regulators do to be more attractive to global institutional investors?
Sure. Thank you, Oscar. First of all, for those of you who are not familiar with us, we are a global stockbroker. Many of you know us particularly because we're involved in all of the frontier and emerging markets of the world. We were very early in the African markets. We got involved in South Africa in 1993. I was telling Ido that I visited Abidjan before the West Africa Stock Exchange opened. We were set up in Mauritius before they allowed foreign investing, and we were among the first foreign brokers to get involved in Egypt when they rewrote the capital markets laws in the early 1990s, and not only did privatizations, but created mutual funds which added a lot of liquidity to the market. In general, a couple of comments. First of all, Africa is not the United States of Africa. Each country has its own culture. It's a huge continent, just the same way each country in Europe has its own culture. I think what's different in Africa, and this, what I'm about to say, is not just having to do with Africa, but it's an emerging and frontier market issue, is that it's a cultural issue. Not every government, every country understands and uses the stock exchange as a very transparent, very legitimate way of raising capital. By raising capital, people can expand their businesses, expand their companies, take money off the table, bring in foreign investment, and use it to expand the economy in general. Egypt was among the first to do that in the early 1990s with a very big privatization program, which started out without a lot of interest. But two things about that made it unique. One was that they made the managers of the company shareholders, so that all of a sudden they became motivated to increase the company's share price and to meet with foreign investors. The second is they created mutual funds, so you had people who had absolutely no understanding of what the stock market did, other than some idea that it might be the casino. It gave them an opportunity to invest along a broad range of companies that they would not ordinarily have a chance to do that. Mauritius has been terrific about self-governance, and West Africa has largely been overlooked by a lot of investors because there has not been a lot of activity there. Nigeria has a lot of liquidity, but currently has various political and economic problems that are scaring investors away. But I think my message to the leaders of the stock exchanges are that you need to push your governments to start a series of privatizations. You need to educate the local companies about the advantages of raising capital on the stock exchanges. You need to educate the small investors about the advantages of using the stock exchange as a means of growing their savings, because the small investors add additional liquidity to the stock exchange. So these are all things that we see as ways of increasing liquidity and bringing foreign investors into the local markets. I should add, because people talk about lack of interest in emerging markets, Egypt did 3 IPOs, as Mohammed mentioned, but what he didn't say is that they were all oversubscribed almost 15 times. So there's still tremendous interest in getting involved in the emerging and frontier markets of Africa.
Okay, thank you, David.
Doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.